Today is Thursday, May 9th, and today we are talking about what's going on. What's going on in May? What's going on in Taurus season? What's going on with the energy? What's going on with the post-eclipse? What is going on? Why do we feel the ways that we do? What's the point of the energy of this month? How do we harness that energy for our greatest and highest good? How does this fit into the grand scheme of where we're going and where we've been? It's a check-in, and May is primarily made up of fixed earth energy. And fixed earth energy is one of the stuckest, hardest, most stubborn, most enduring, most real, most tangible, most practical. It is reality. It's the reality that has been formed, that already exists in our lifetime. And in order to change fixed habits, fixed earth, it takes a lot of time, energy, pressure, or resources. It is not easy to change the fixed earth reality. And oftentimes during the month of May and during the Taurus season, we butt up against a rock and a hard place. We butt up against the reality that we have manifested so far and the reality of the tangible, practical steps it would take in order for that reality to change. So we could have initiated some kind of inspired vision, inspired plan, like, I want to do this. This is what I would love to experience. When we were in Aries season. And in Aries season, we had all of the eclipses and we had the retrograde. And it was like, I'm willing to let go of all of this. I'm willing to change this. I'm willing to mix this up. So all those wonderful, great plans that we initiated, the excitement in March or in May has now worn off. The excitement and the fire has now given way to reality. And what we do when we hit reality is we either double down on the old pattern again, or we actually take the steps to shift the tangible reality. So we could be feeling all kinds of frustration. We could be feeling all kinds of willingness. It just depends on what our relationship with earth element actually is. And everyone has a different relationship with earth element. Some people are very airy and they want to learn and they want to think and they want to communicate. And there's a lot of mental energy put into looking at their life, observing their life. But when it comes down to actually doing things, that mental energy hits the road, the rubber hits the road, and some of the actual practical, tangible steps can feel hard. There are some people who are really watery. They have a watery disposition, and water has a way of breaking down the earth through emotion. So water has a way of cutting the earth through repetitive behaviors, emotional behaviors. Some people are very fiery and they just want to burn the earth. They want to burn it down. They want to use explosives. They just want to make it happen as fast as they can. And so think about what your personal disposition is in May, in Taurus season, and how that's related to the tangible reality that you're facing. Are you willing to work with the earth to make the changes? Are you feeling like you'd rather burn things down? Are you feeling overwhelmed emotionally and you just want to sleep or cry? Are you feeling like if you have the right strategy, if you think about it right, if you shift your mindset on it, that maybe it will make it easier for you to do the work? Likely there's an area of your life there. We have all the areas, right? Likely you use strategies to meet your needs for making change or getting your needs met. You use different strategies for different things. And today I just want to talk about like the basic human needs that we have and some of the strategies we might be using right now to meet those basic human needs. Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac, and Taurus is when you discover what you have to do or what you have to be in order to survive, basically. It's super practical. It's based on the body. This is food, water, shelter. This is physical safety. This is I have enough money to pay my bills. This is I have enough energy to pay attention to these different projects that I've got going on. This is a month that tests all of your ideas. It tests all your initiations so that you can see what's actually going to be viable for the long run. And so there are some things we're going to have to make decisions on that will go, and there are some things that will stay. And if they're going to stay, we've got to put some investment into it in order for it to flourish. If it's going to go, we've got to do the work of packing it up and getting it out of our life. And so well, if you have a lot of earth, it might feel great to do this work. If you don't enjoy that stuff as much, this could be very tedious. It could feel like you're not making very much progress very fast at all. A lot of resistance can show up in the body in the form of exhaustion, sickness, literally scheduling your attention so that you can't attend to certain things. There's a lot of different ways it could go. But whatever you identify, whatever you're able to become aware of during this season, it's going to tell you a lot about what happens in later parts of your cycle when push comes to shove, or when the rubber hits the road, or when it gets really real. What are your strategies for that? And this is the earliest part of the season to help you understand what that strategy is. And now I want to take you back into, we're not going to go way into childhood, but we are going to go a little bit into early development. Taurus is, no matter where you have it in your chart, Taurus is the way you behave in this season is sort of the way you behaved when you were a child to get your needs met. What did you think your needs were when you were a kid, and what did you have to be in order to get those needs met? And if you're going to track this, if you're going to take some time after this conversation, write down what you had to do to get your needs met when you were 7. And then again, what did you have to do to get your needs met when you were 14, 21, and 28? These 4 ages are going to give you a really clear idea of how you developed meeting your needs. At age 7, you would have been really immersed in the family culture. And so the way you got your needs met at 7 probably had to do a lot with adhering to the conditions of the family culture. When you got to age 14, this would have been a rejection, the first rejection of family culture. And your needs would have been through your social interactions more so than your family. Your family is the first culture that you belong to meet your needs. Your social group at 14 is the next social group that meets your needs. And usually you want to be accepted, you want friends, you want to not get made fun of, you want to be seen as maybe attractive. You're starting to have hormones, you're starting to cultivate like relationship dynamics. So thinking of how meeting your needs at 7 changed at 14. When you're getting over to age 21, you started meeting your needs to survive outside of your family's home. Maybe you started thinking about the larger world. You started thinking about your role in commerce. You started thinking about how will you meet your needs as an adult. And so think back to when you're age 21 and jot down a few needs that were very practical, very tangible, and what you were doing at that time to secure getting those needs met. And then go all the way to age 28. Usually around age 28, you've established certain structures in your life that you thought were going to meet your needs. You thought that you would be able to function in the world. And what happens at 27, 28 when you're trying to meet those needs in the world and the world is demanding more of you, or your soul begins demanding more of you? Different needs start to come online around that time, and these are larger than your physical practical needs. These become soul needs. So around 28, you're initiated into, yeah, food, water, shelter, secure relationships, maybe a marriage, maybe a job that pays your bills, maybe these things, maybe you were able to secure these things by 28 and you probably start to feel a stirring that tells you that there's more to life than that. So then you go into the discontentedness of wanting to meet your spiritual needs, wanting it's the art of fulfillment that comes online at 28. So then you spend the next 28 years trying to meet the needs of your soul. And that gets interesting, especially if at any point in the journey, you didn't actually get those needs met properly at 7, 14, 21, and 28. There are these checkpoints, and if we living in an ideal system, if you meet these checkpoints and you actually fulfill the standard demands of living a mortal human life as a soul, then these checkpoints ideally would build onto each other and you would initiate yourself through your life into the next level of evolution. And what we know is that life is anything but orderly when it comes to the human experience. It is divinely orchestrated for each specific soul, and each specific soul has directives, it has desires, it has karma, it has contracts that we are not fully conscious of as we begin the life, and we only become conscious of as we play the game and experience relationships with other people. And so as you're moving through these checkpoints, you might want to note at which checkpoint was this severely challenged? At which checkpoint did you feel the most angst or anxiety? At which checkpoint do you feel like you're still continuously trying to bring that into a deeper sense of fulfillment so that you are completely secure? No, I don't know any people who are really fully, completely secure at really any point in the journey. Even if even if they were, how would we know? Because I don't know if there's any fixed states that persist over all time. I grok issues like this all the time, and what I have understood is that literally every moment is a standalone moment. Every moment is a moment is an end in itself. Even if we're trying to bring previous experiences from the past into this current moment, it's still a different moment than the one that existed before. So what actually is enduring? What actually is consistent? What actually is fixed in our lives? Eventually all things do end, and I know that there are some existential persistent forces. And I think as a human, conceptually, those are really difficult for us to grasp. So here we are in a season where we're trying to understand what those fixed pieces are in a lifetime where nothing's fully fixed. And so we're navigating the constant experience of change when the need that we'd ultimately love to meet at this time is some sense of security. So all of that being said, this is a time when our need for stability and security could be deeply challenged. And if we're trying to cultivate a sense of security from external forces that are always shifting or internal forces that are always shifting, we probably will be doing all kinds of behaviors to try and nail that security down. And the irony of this is the only security we can actually find is probably in the security of knowing that every moment is a standalone end in itself, and presence is the only constant. And there's a peace that can come from that that is, I think, every individual's personal path. And so that's my soapbox on that. Um, the opposite sign of Taurus is Scorpio. Scorpio has a tendency to test all of our boundaries and to test all of our securities. So every time we move into an energy, we're always working with the opposite energy at the same time. We always have a focal point in one direction and an earth in another direction. And so right now, our body is in the space of Scorpio, while our focal point is on the space of Taurus, which means we could be navigating high levels of insecurity right now. And when we're navigating high levels of insecurity, we could be trying to take actions to create more security or to protect those boundaries or to, I don't know, create some continuity in our lives. So just keep that in mind. It's par for the course, and remember that everything is always changing. What we get to move into through this Taurus season is one where we get to learn everything from what happened. We get to look at the tangible steps that we followed. We get to look at all the results that we experienced, and we get to decide what our new belief systems are based on how well our needs were met during this time. Um, I'm going to just go through a week by week energetic overview of what this Taurus May season looks like so that we can kind of get a heads up as to how the energy is going to flow. At the time of this reading, we've crossed over this threshold where we got a higher awareness of what our wound is really about. And the wound right now that our collective is working on is the wound of worthiness, the wound of being worthy just because we exist. The same way that a child or baby is worthy just because it's born. There are some deeply universal truths that even though we do not have equal experiences, even though we do not come into equal opportunities, even though once we get here, there's no guarantee of anything, life is worthy to be. And the unfortunate thing is, immediately after it's got to be nourished if it's going to stay. And so there's this kind of survival instinct, this survival drive that comes when we claim that we're worthy to be here. Once we overcome this wound of worthiness, we decide that we want to protect and we want to serve and we want to nourish and we want to support what is. And I have found that this bridge between I'm worth this, I'm worthy, and I'll take the actions, I'll claim, I will be all the things to support that life. That bridge is not standard in everyone's lives. If for any reason you find yourself on your path feeling like there's something that you need that's just eluding you all the time, that there's something that is really not supporting you foundationally, there's probably some area in our lives that we need to claim that we're worthy. We're worthy to feed this body. We're worthy to find safe shelter. We're worthy to rest. We're worthy to exist. And because of that, we're going to do the work necessary to maintain this life. And that is it's a interesting bridge to straddle. And this is the month where any of those issues that are unresolved are actually getting super, super pronounced. They're getting really, really obvious. And in the first week of May, that's what would have flared up, with the energies really putting a lot of pressure on us revealing that internal wound. Whatever parts of us were still having a standard that settled for less. As we're getting past the new moon, hopefully the new moon was just an invitation to slow down and let the present moment be enough. let ourselves commit to being alive, commit to meeting our needs, commit to nourishing this body, commit to doing whatever is necessary to feel supported, to feel like we've got our ground. And as the week progresses, it's really just an inventory week of taking stock of what is, taking stock of what actually has to happen now. And maybe not much has to happen, or maybe there's quite a bit that needs to happen, and we need to allocate our resources to making that happen. On the 13th, um, well, let me just back up. Through this week, whatever we observe, we actually really get to work on it from the 12th onward. This is when we're saying, okay, here's the list of things that I actually am committed to do. I'm going to commit my resources to this. I'm going to commit my time to this. I'm going to commit my energy to this. I'm going to take each of these projects, I'm going to put it on my desk, and I'm going to get the work done. And I'm going to hone my craft. And so we begin that work, and I think a lot of earth will move between the 12th and the 18th. I think a lot of progress will be felt, and it will be one at a time, step by step, one bucket at a time, one little piece at a time. So this will be energized, and it will be supported by a conjunction that the sun has with Uranus. Uranus is like initiating this massive change that we are prepared to do the step-by-step incremental progress toward. And we're going to continue to have not hard hitting in a negative way, but it's the sensation is like, well, I can tell you a very tangible experience I'm going to be having between the 12th and the 18th. I'm actually able finally to move into a new apartment, and it's just across the way, so I won't be loading anything into my car or a moving truck. Every single piece is going to be loaded into a wagon and then carried up the elevator into the apartment and unloaded, and then the wagon will be back, and there'll be a million micro moves throughout the week as I'm slowly moving all of my material from one place to another. Also, I've let go of all kinds of overhead that I will no longer need, but definitely were a part of my past reality that I felt I needed for security. So there's been a lot of releasing of things that have supported my life in exchange for something new that I believe will support my life even more sustainably. So this is the week where, yes, this is happening. Yes, the movement is happening, one little piece at a time. It's like ants building it's like an ant hill. They're going to move the sand out one little piece at a time to build this new structure. And if there's something in your life that you've been sort of trying to build your momentum around, you've been trying to initiate the behavior, you've been wanting to make this change, the week between the 12th and the 18th is go time. It is the time to begin laying those tracks down and laying down those behaviors. It's like digging out the pipeline or something like that. And it will continue to amplify as time passes. We're going to have Venus together with Uranus. So first the sun on the 13th, and then Venus with Uranus on the 18th. This is going to be like, you did it. Look at all the progress you made. Look at how amazing this new reality is. You did all of these little tiny steps, and now you get to experience and receive the benefits of all the little tiny steps that you just took. And then the next day, Mars will come to the North Node, which is the 19th. Once you get that tangible, yes, we've done it, it was worth it, it's working, we commit even more fully to the next step of the process. This could be really letting go, really cutting away, really releasing. Like, I imagine it'll start out slow, and then we'll want to just do these massive shifts. and the energy will shift over into an air element at this time. And this is when our mind comes online to observe what we've accomplished over this last month. And the I have it as the Nine of Swords. Now, if you're familiar with the tarot and if you're familiar with the work that I've been doing around the archetypal elements, the Nine of Air or the Nine of Swords is like waking up from a nightmare. It's realizing that all of your fears, all your worries, all of the plays you had in your head, all the work you did mentally to like brainstorm what could go wrong, how, like, what if this doesn't happen? What if they act like this? What if they say that? What am I going to do? All of that comes to a head between the 19th and the 25th. And either those fears become reality, or you realize all of it was made up. All of it was a dream. All of those fears you had, they weren't real. They were made up in your head. And now you can actually see the tangible reality of doing the work. It's like being afraid to start a business because you don't know if you will have customers, and then actually starting the business and seeing the real tangible results. Like, do I have customers or do I not? At least now I know. And so that's why it's waking out of the dream. Until you actually do it, you won't know. And so this is the week where, oh, well, now I know. Interesting. All of my fears were a delusion, or all of my fears were true. Dang it. But either way, now is when you get the reality of whatever you imagined. And when the sun moves into Gemini on the 20th, that's when that's really activated. The sun will be in a trine with Pluto on the 22nd, and that is going to give you the clarity that you need to see what long term is going to stay and what's going to go. You're going to be able to strategic plan for your future by the 22nd. You're going to understand that whatever you initiate now is going to come to greater fruition in 2025. So I actually see there's going to be this glimpse on the 22nd where you can really do some future planning and future dreaming. And then we have that full moon in Sagittarius on the 23rd. Venus will come into a conjunction with Jupiter and then move into Gemini. There's going to be this really beautiful, fiery, exciting, passionate. I see it, I perceive it being fun and lots of communication, lots of movement, lots of pleasure. I see this being a celebratory full moon. And I think it's going to be, finally, we got through it. Finally, we got the proof. Finally, this is all what we've been working on. It's like, yeah, I'm very, very, very optimistic about this moon on the 23rd. And on the 25th, Venus is going to be in a trine, similarly to how the vision on the 22nd, how the vision for the future comes in. Venus is saying, and I'm receiving that. I'm receiving that that is where I'm going. And Jupiter says, great, because I'm going to move into Gemini now for the next year, and I'm going to help you make it happen. So finally, Jupiter out of Taurus. Jupiter in Taurus was like really emphasizing for the last year what the physical reality is. It's been trying to really open our eyes to what's our money situation? What's the reality of our health? What's the reality of the way our relationships meet our needs? What's the reality? And now that we've expanded that reality, now what are you going to do? How are you going to, what did you learn from all of that? How are you going to communicate that? How are you going to use that in your life to shift your mindset for the future? So we start that new year-long cycle for Jupiter on the 25th. And on the 26th, we get into a week that's about the 10 of Swords. And it's the end of the mental anguish. We could either overload ourselves with mental stimulus to where we have a mental breaking point, or we're like, oh my gosh, I am not doing that anymore. This could be like conversations in your relationships coming to a head where you're like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not playing this mental game anymore. I am not like entertaining those those mental ideas anymore. Like stick a fork in it, I'm done. And so I think this whole week is going to present us with those mental boundaries that we really need because we've proven to ourselves that it doesn't help for us to play those scenarios out in our head. We've proven to ourselves that even with all the doubts, things still have a tendency to work out great. And so why was it useful for us to create so much angst in the first place? We're going to have Mars crossing over Chiron on the 29th. This is one of the last big Chiron conjunctions. Mars has been trailing behind, and every other planet has just said, ow, now I know why that hurts. Oh, I really feel why that hurts. Oh, man. And I think this is the last big initiation of the medicine of that wound where we make that decision. We are not going to operate and behave from that wound anymore. It was the wound that confused us around our worthiness, that caused us to worry about things working out, that caused us to project pain into our future, that caused us to grip so strongly to the past. It was our wound that stranded us on the bridge between I'm worthy, so I'm going to support myself. I'm worthy, so I'm going to ask for it. I'm worthy, so I'm going to give myself this thing. And now, finally, we initiate ourselves through our behaviors. We're not acting in these old ways anymore. It's the end, it's the boundary line. And then we've got a Mercury conjunct Uranus on the 31st, the last of the month. We had first, let's just track back. On the 13th, the sun was there. On the 18th, Venus was there. And now on the 31st, Mercury's there. This is kind of a huge mental recap of everything that's happened over the last 2 months. And I don't know about you, but I find reflection and inventory wildly important. I see so much of my progress through inventory. I see so much of what worked for me and what was wasted energy, even though I can argue that there's no such thing as wasted energy, that all of it's in service to our greatest good, even if we don't understand how. But when we reflect, we can actually create behavior change where we learn from some of that so that we shorten the amount of processing time in the future so that more of our bandwidth can be used for creating whatever it is we desire to experience or whatever it is we need to experience to open up more of our liberation and freedom. Um, so that brings us into June. And June, I'm not going to go all the way into June right now, but June is kind of the very peak of the learning curve for the year. It's like everything has been up, 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 more, 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 more. Expansion, 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 expansion. June is like getting to the peak of that expansion curve for the year. It's like when the roller coaster gets to the very top and there's that split second where you're just like, oh, and you know the car is about to go down, but you get to see from this higher vantage point the entire park, the entire game. And I believe that June is that month where we get to see the entire game before the car gets to kind of go down and rest into July and August. I think July and August are going to be months where we aren't making a ton of progress. We're flushing out, we're getting our ground again, we're letting our life sink in. We're really like, wow, what an incredible 6 months we just had. Can you even believe how fast that went? And June is the last month that we're continuing to stack a little bit of that evolution onto the equation. So just know we're staying in the game. This is probably the hardest part of the evolutionary game of the year. We had so much, we got through so much in April, right? Like, I'm not going to say April wasn't difficult. It just depends on what your disposition is. April presented a whole bunch of change. May is presenting a whole bunch of I gotta have stamina. I gotta stay in this game. I gotta maintain this growth. I'm either gonna double down on the past or I'm gonna continue to innovate my life. I'm gonna continue to change. We're making those choices in May, and then June is like, oh, we made it. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy I stayed in the game. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that I didn't double down on the past. And so if you're seeing this now in May and any part of you is considering doubling down on the past, keep this in mind. Once you get through this month of May and you keep the stamina to create that evolution, you'll find yourself in that new terrain in June, and you'll be looking back and so grateful that you stayed in it, you stayed in the game, and you'll be able to experience all of the integration in the months of July and August. So that was a mouthful. I'm going to go ahead and open this up for some conversation. And hold on. I'm so sorry. Part of my growth curve had to do with my physical health and lots of health upgrades. So many changes in my diet, so many changes in my movement, lots and lots and lots of health upgrades were in store for me in the last few weeks. And honestly, I am so grateful for it because all of my senses are more sensitive. My sense of smell, my sense of taste. It's like I've just upgraded into a far more sensitive body. But holy moly, it has not been as pleasant. It's not been pleasant. Um, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and open it to gallery mode. If anyone off camera would like to come on camera, you're more than welcome to do that now. If you want to stay off camera and just comment in the chat, you're welcome to do that. But I want to take questions and get more specific for each person. Hello?
Amanda, did you want to go first? I'll definitely come on camera next time. I'm just not in an environment where I can now. But
Okay.
this gave so much language to everything that I had been sensing, but I didn't even have a grid to attach it to. And I found out about you through Nicole Lano's Human Design podcast. So I've been watching you for a few months, and I subscribed to your newsletter. And then I saw that there was this opportunity for this more intimate gathering. So I really didn't know what to expect. But this was like, wow, okay, this makes so much sense on why I am feeling this need to really push, but not try and figure it all out right now. Allow myself to go through the summer and just kind of really pin the thoughts that I've had for how I believe things are going to shift towards the time we get to closer to election season, and why I need to have kind of all of this energy stored up in a clearer understanding of what type of business I want to bring to the market. And
Mm.
I just didn't understand, like, why is this so critical now? But the everything you just shared just really validated that. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And yeah, it is like a storing of energy. It's like, okay, what am I actually needing to resource myself with, and what am I resourcing myself for? And
Right.
this year is like a I don't want no year is a um every year is an epic year. Every year is epic. Every moment is epic. And this year is such a deep preparation year for the the positioning of where we're going in 25. That's true every year, but this year specifically really, really feels that way. And people are getting so much clarity this year because they know that the old world has ended. The old
Yeah.
like the old 16-year pattern that they were a part of for the last 16 years, that has ended, but we learned so much. So with everything we learned, what are we going to initiate that really meets people where we want to meet them in the marketplace in our businesses, or really meets partnership and relationship where we want to be in our love lives, or really meets our body where we really need to meet it for the long haul. Like that, the clarity we're getting right now is about the beginning steps of something that will give us a longer, like 20-year segment of life from 25 and onward.
Yeah, and I think, for me, I just hit a milestone birthday. I turned 50 this year, and, so I'm going through all of the physical shifts, and I'm having to dig deeper into how am I understanding what life meant for me, and what do I want it to mean for me going forward? And being in the online space, you don't really have this opportunity to get granular with coaching to really identify where you are positioning yourself as a leader re-emerging. And that I think that's what I appreciate about both the human design and astrology, because there's so much more of a language grid that doesn't have anything to do with spirituality.
Mhm.
And so we can kind of absorb it and make sense of it as we lead our days and our lives. But it's true and it's pure, and I just appreciate that because it's given me. I've been before hopping onto the call, I had been doing so much, okay, like, okay, messaging. How do I shift my messaging to sound woo, because I'm woo, but not to speak all of the spiritualese.
Mhm.
And, then I said, "Okay, Christina's workshop or Zoom session is coming up. Let me hop on that." And hopped on, and I'm like, "Wow, she just flows with this language of understanding of all of these things that it's just a lighter it's a lighter, more, synthesized experience with being in this space with you. I get it. So, yeah.
Oh, I definitely operate in a woo space as well. And and all of this human life on this planet, it's so woo. Every step of the journey is so woo. Like it's so it's like I can't in my head what I just saw was, oh yeah, please, Amanda. I would love for you to speak into that.
I just hi Tanisha, thank you for sharing what you just shared. And we're having dinner now, but I just wanted to say that we're gonna linger now. But you just saying everything, every moment is woo. So Grace and I today. So tell me again, Christina, the word for the part of the brain, the reticular, the
Oh, reticular activating system.
yes. Okay. So we've had multiple times today, and so this is sort of what you're saying, I think, is so we've been walking to and fro downtown on this bike path. We have passed the same man, not just once a day, but twice a day, every day we go for a walk. Now, this is starting to become a bit like it's like a glitch in the matrix, a bit of a Truman Show moment. Like we are not walking at the exact same time every day. We're sort of within time range, but every moment we comment, we're like, oh, there's that man again. And today it happened a second time after it had already done that a few times. And we're going, it's him again. And I just said, and then the other thing that happened, we saw a car that we had seen multiple times and we had been parked behind. This is sort of like Christina, you mentioned the blue whatever, and I saw it on the bus. And then the other moment, the funny thing was today, Grace pointed out, a chartreuse colored Jeep. It's the same Jeep she has, but in chartreuse. Ever since that moment at about 2 p.m. today, we have seen nothing
When
but
you learned what
chartreuse.
chartreuse was.
And that was the first time I learned what that color was. And we have seen so much chartreuse. Now, that's part of the reticular activator. But the other parts of it for me feel woo-woo. That to me, and this is what I said while we were sitting in the piazza, I said, yes, it could just be that we're now tuned into that. Yes, it could be that we're just paying attention. But these other moments of seeing the exact same person, seeing the exact same car, these to me are more magical. They're more woo. It's not just something we can describe as, oh, isn't that coincidental? So to me, that is how all of life is woo. It's all just a lot of woo-woo. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. I am so happy that you both got to tune in today, and I'm so Grace, right? I am so pleased that I got to meet you finally, especially after knowing that you've known me for 8 months. I finally love that and the same with you, Tanisha. I'm so happy that I'm meeting people. This is why I created this group. I'm like, hey, how about I don't know any of you guys. I don't know you all, but you know me. How about we hang out here? How about we show up together? It's so juicy for me to meet people and to have these kinds of interactions.
Do we have, does this go on? Can I share a story that's not really related, but it's just something that went back in October from one of the videos that you released on YouTube? Is released the right word? It sounds like a major emotional
100%. 100%.
It was a big event for me. I guess it was actually September, which I'm probably not going to remember that. I'm very new to the woo world. This is all very new to me. Matt and I met in 2019, and that's kind of when it became more part of my worldview. But anyway, Christina, the one talk that you posted last September was just so much. It was a lot about kind of money struggles, and it was a very earthy time, and there was going to be some kind of struggle about a very earthy subject. And that happened to come out, I want to say like 2 or 3 days after my husband and I had a big fight about money because of a money fixation that I have had for my whole life. The fight was because we were trying to go to a museum together that he really wanted to go to, and we had planned to for years, and we were finally at this museum, and it required a little shuttle bus to get there. And the shuttle bus ticket was an extra cost. And my little voice inside of me wanted to like fight against that and argue that, well, it should be included in the museum ticket, because how else are we going to get to the museum? It was like a less than $10 thing to get us into that shuttle bus and into the museum. And we had driven like 3 hours to go here. But in that moment, I was like, I really care about this cause. And so I took the driver kind of to task about it and tried to go into my investigative mindset and just get to the bottom of this. And it wasn't even like I anticipated being able to solve for the problem, but I just wanted to like figure it out. I just like had my investigator cap on, and I was gonna like just feel better about this money moment. Well, my husband lost all patience with me. He's like, this is ridiculous. And it was a really uncomfortable fight that took place after. And it just got us to like the depths of what that butting up against each other looked like because of his money culture and mine. And it was gonna come to a head sooner or later. That's when it did. And we spent like 3 days apart after that. And I kept thinking like, why is it so bad? You know, it's just me doing my thing. Like, why can't he be compassionate? And just the talk that you hosted that week was so much, it was so in line with what that experience had been for me. And I just saw it differently. And Amanda and I talked about it, and it was so fascinating. Since then, I have not had hangups about the little details of money. Mm-hmm. I mean, I still have greater projections about, you know, financial stress for my future, wanting to feel secure, but it's no longer manifesting since that very week in like this nitty gritty, like onesie twosie stuff of trying to go into my investigative brain and like trying to compensate one situation for another. It has just like released this entire layer that had been just sitting on top of my brain for my entire life. And everything feels so much more fluid since then. And that was really when I just felt so deeply appreciative for you and what you do. And it just clicked together so beautifully, and I really needed it. And you were there providing it. And I really wanted to meet you ever since then. But I've heard about you for many years from Amanda. So, but it's just become so personal to me ever since that month. And that was really, so thank you for that.
Virgo rules her second house, by the way, and she's got a ton of Virgo in her chart. I just realized she's got like 3 planets in Virgo. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming that was
For sure. Well, yeah, I so appreciate you sharing that story with me, because we never know the impact that we could have on people, the way that our like pollen is taken onto the wind and like lands. Like we never ever know that, to the extent of that. And especially if we're putting content into the world. But it's personally very important to me that you told me that, because I am in a time right now where I'm learning how to prioritize my energy, my resources, my time in a way that I find personally valuable. Taurus is a very personal earth sign. And so whatever we decide right now, we're actually deciding from a deeply internal and personal space. And you telling me that helps me to organize in my head why I so deeply value creating content and putting it into the world. Because it's true, sometimes all it takes is a tiny flashlight perspective shift to see a different type of reality in the warehouse. And I talked about this on the last Center Quarterly conversation, which I hope that please get your email in, log in, watch the replay of that if you haven't. You probably already did, but
Amanda
like,
usually sends them to me, but I should, oh no, I did have my email. I
Okay,
did.
you
Yeah,
signed
I'm
up.
on
Yeah.
it now.
Yeah, you signed up.
yeah, just log in and because just changing the way that the flashlight lands on the stuff in the warehouse of possibility, that one change changes everything forever. Once you see something, you can't unsee it. And that's the power of us sharing our perspective in ways like this. That's the power of it. And we all have the power to impact people that we don't even know and create. Ultimately, I believe the whole point of all of this is to cultivate even more presence with love, like more presence with the people we love, presence with the love that we have for ourselves, presence for appreciation and love for the human experience. And there's a lot of things that take us out of that piece. And some of it is just perceptual. Most of it, almost 100%, is perceptual. And so if we can, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing that with me. It means a lot to me because I'm making some decisions right now regarding the way I want to show up in the world and the way I want to be more prolific as a creator in the world. And I'm positioning myself. I'm literally separating my work and my home. I'm going to have a completely separate workspace that's devoted to my work. And I use work as a very loving term. I love work. And so now that I'm going to have a separate space, I feel that the concentration of my ability to work will actually increase. And I want to do the kind of work that impacts people the way that you just shared.
Wow. And that's actually the areas of focus that I wanted to bring in my program was focusing on the two bodies, the body of life and the body of work.
There you go. Look at that. Talk about frequency connection.
Yeah. I think that is the word you use, prolific. I think that is a very audacious and true, very holistic approach to how we're going to have to navigate the times that we're stepping into, and for it to become really real for us to really own our space.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, love it, love it, love it.
Well, I invite everyone who is watching this, each of you who are alive right now, and anyone who's watching this recording, please share these resources. Please spread the seeds to anyone you feel could be could be served by just having perspective shifts. Like the ones that I'm sharing. I'm not the only person talking in the world, but I'm doing the best to talk and share as clearly as I possibly can, because this is what's meaningful for me. And so when you share and I'm able to, like, Nicole put me in touch with you, and Amanda, you put me in touch with Grace, and like, this is how it works. So if you can be a part of that chain, please, 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 please share it. And if there's anything else we want to talk about, I feel we could conclude our call. You guys can get to your dinner and we could go on and feel fruitful in our week.
Yeah, thank you, Christina, as always. And I took good notes. I went back. It was really interesting. I won't be long, but like I wrote out 7, 14, 21, 28. And interestingly, Grace and I had some overlaps, but at
Yeah.
different ages.
We'll have a dinner time
We're gonna have a
conversation.
whole different kind of, we're gonna go through those, but I started like, well, the 21 was really easy for me. I got married at 21.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started my corporate career at 28. So it was just very interesting, very clear what my needs were that I was meeting. And then you got married at 28.
Yeah.
So,
And
and she
21, I
left
left America.
Like
Yeah.
she went off on like travel and novelty and like exploring, which you've been doing ever since. So it's and then when I got younger, I was like, oh, interesting. But even when I went back to 7 and 14, performance and art certainly were always there. And relationships. Like I think I was 7 when I had my first boyfriend. Like, it was like I was 14 when I started, having the crush on the kid at school, like that's always been the theme. 21 got married, I was in a relationship at 28. But it was just interesting for you to say that by 28, we've had our needs met. And I was like, oh my God, I actually did have, by that age, I had all of my needs met. And for the first time in my life, I was actually providing for myself financially. And, it was, and so now I have definitely spent the last however many years since 28, like really it feels like a complete undoing of a lot of that and a redoing. So the fact that, yeah, this is all now soul work and soul needs, that feels very, very true. And also what are those still like, what was angsty and still not fully met? And I will just say what you've left me with from this call that I'll be contemplating is, a lot of times I leave these calls like, oh my God, I'm so clear on exactly what you're saying. And although I think we've done this enough times where there's always like 1 or 2 where I'm like, I don't know about that one. So it just must be hitting my chart in a different, I don't know what it is, but that will always happen. But it also happens where I'm like, you're spot on day by day. And right now I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, is it the money? I mean, the money stuff's always there, but that also seems to just be fine. Like there's this like the relationships, of course, are always front and center. So I have some curiosity though. I will say you're asking of if we're healing the wound of if we are worthy. And I'm like, okay, that is coming into completion. And last week there was like the biggest money like the biggest money dip was last week. I was like, oh, okay. So that was once again presenting itself. And yet I didn't actually do anything and everything. I just knew it would be fine. I basically was like, yeah, but it's going to be okay. And of course it was. So that was more of I've already been through this and I've practiced this so much, and it certainly was. And so there's this, I don't feel like I'm working on anything right now, but this is also the maintenance month. So I don't know, I'm sitting in some curiosity around this particular month, though I have no fucking earth in my chart. So I also wonder if am I avoiding the work, or am I like, or does it just feel foreign to me? Like, is it just like, yeah, but I don't really understand this. So I'll just get through it.
Yeah, you do have a like really unique recipe for moving about the world, and and the earth is always under your feet, even if it's not in your chart. Like you always have a way of gracefully walking on the earth because you have a lot of the other elements supporting that. I think it's just that we use different strategies depending on where the planets are in our chart, really. Like what you're saying when you don't feel like you have a lot of earth in your chart is, I don't have a lot of planets in earth signs.
Yes,
And
that's right.
so that means parts of your character don't use earth strategies to do what they need to do. But the earth is still here and the earth is still impacted. It's just you might impact it from your mind, you might impact it from your emotions, you might impact it from your passion. And it's a result of whatever that strategy is that you use.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, wonderful. And yes, we will have lots of dinner time conversation. And it was
That's
nice to
so
meet
cool. Oh yeah.
you.
Well, wonderful. I'm gonna put the recording for this in the space and I will see you in a couple weeks for our workshop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to
Bye-bye.
see you. Bye-bye.